Welcome!
This is our presentation on AM fungal signaling with plant roots by Lizzie Wilson and
Raquel Wilson.
As plants moved onto land, they had many different obstacles to overcome. When they lived in water, nutrients were readily available as they floated along with the current. They were often small or single-celled and relied on phagocytosis for food. Moving onto land and being bigger, they faced the challenge of getting nutrients. To overcome this, plants developed roots. Within these roots, we see the symbiotic relationship of plants with arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. This relationship helps plants with many things. In this presentation, we will be focusing on the signaling between the plant and fungi that allows for the colonization of plant roots by AM fungi. Chemical communication in the form of stragolactone compounds is known to be initiated by the plants. This is then received by the fungi and elicits the fungi to produce a diffusible signal in the form of mycorrhizal factors. These are also known as myc factors. These myc factors are detected by the host plants and then trigger a symbiotic response. This allows the fungus to penetrate and colonize the area of the roots to form the symbiotic relationship. The resultant channel interface is responsible for the initiation of nutrient and water transport to the plants from the fungi in exchange for carbohydrates to the fungi from the plants.
We found a study that quantified the colonization of plant roots by the AM fungi. And from just looking at the figure, the first and the second plot shows how the colonization increases with the lower levels of phosphate in the soil. So on the x-axis, we have the different levels of phosphate that was in each of the different pots. And so we have low, medium, and then high. And the two different, so the V26 and W115, notate that there were two different lines of plants. And so it's just comparing those two and having the percentage of the colonization on the y-axis. And so again, from each of these, it really supports our learning and understanding of plants and of how when they were evolving, they faced challenges, especially when there were low concentrations of phosphorus and other nutrients in the soil. And so it really shows why this symbiotic relationship needed to develop. When it comes to the symbiotic relationship between the plants and the fungi, there's obviously a lot of benefits. For the plant, it benefits a lot in more growth with an increased rate of photosynthesis and also increased biomass. And this is because the fungi provides phosphorus, nitrogen, and also other micronutrients to the plant. And the fungi also benefits from it in being able to obtain different lipids and also carbon from the plant, and that also allows for it to grow and prosper. And however, there definitely are costs that also come with this relationship, and sometimes from some of the studies that we were reading, we even learned that sometimes it might even come off as more of a parasitic, if not close to that kind of relationship. And so some of the cost is that since the fungi does take carbon out of the plant, sometimes, just depending on the circumstance, it'll take a lot more carbon out than needed. And obviously, a lot of these costs that I'm talking about are very context dependent. And so it really depends where they are, what kind of environment they are in, what kind of plant is trying to have this relationship with the fungi. And so some plants have developed better responses to the symbiont. And it really depends on whether and how much nutrients they need or how much light they're going to have going up to a certain point. Some studies have also shown that plants that have an R-selected lifestyle are developed much faster, and so they're going to a lot of times be a lot less reliant on the fungi. And then obviously abiotic and biotic stresses, and there are just some costs that arise also, even if the fungi provides benefits, but those benefits aren't ones that are needed in that specific environment. And also just lastly, for the costs of this relationship, there are just some limitations of the fungi colonization by the plant. So the plant only allows the fungi to colonize it up to a certain point to lessen the plant damage, and that also kind of restricts the fungi's development. And so in the end, even if there are these costs, the benefits usually outweigh the costs so that the plant forms this relationship with the fungi.
To conclude, we want to talk about the why, how, and what. For the why, with this symbiotic relationship, plants can get the needed nutrients to grow with the small price of losing some carbohydrates and lipids. As we know, land plants have developed a lot of complex structures that require a lot of energy that comes through photosynthesis. Fungi are more efficient at getting nitrogen and phosphorus from the soil than plants are, which means it is easier in an environment where those are deprived for the plants to develop the symbiotic relationship for specialization than to create a whole new system. For the how, these key mycorrhizal genes developed in plants were kept and conserved through the evolution of the land plants from their common ancestors. The environment and nutrient levels play a key factor in determining whether or not plants will express these genes and form the symbiotic relationship.
And for the what, the information about plants and their relationship with mycorrhizal fungi further solidified our understanding that the evolution of plants was complicated. These findings further the idea that plants are complex by showing us that they were able to involve other organisms in their evolutionary history. The importance of roots comes to light in these studies as well. Lastly, the symbiotic relationship that allowed plants to utilize land as habitat also contributes to the idea that because plants are so adaptive, they are able to fill many niches, which explains the diversity of plants that we have today. Thank you so much for watching our presentation. If you want to find more information, you can go to any of these articles in the works cited.